everyone, it's Edna here. So in this video I'm going to talk about interpretation, and that's going to be the subject of the next series, which is I'm going to take pianists which I love and I will compare the versions of a piece. So I've made a whole series about piano technique. That's one thing, it's good to know, but the most interesting thing in piano playing is the interpretation. Why do one choose to play in one way and not in another way? So by taking two great pianists, I will point out what were the choices, what's the effect that they achieve, and why they do that maybe. Also, that's another question. Whenever I listen to the great pianists, I was always wondering, you know, how they base their choices. So in the piece today, I'm going to talk about the Bach Prelude and Fugue number 6 from the Well-Tempered Keyboard, number 1, the first book. And I'm going to take two great pianists, which I love, Edwin Fischer from the 30s and Sviatoslav Richter, which of course is much later. And the big difference between these two interpretations is, of course, also in the recording quality, but also in a way that we perceive the music. So Richter is much more modern, and Edwin Fischer is an old pianist. He belongs to what we call the golden age of pianists. So the real striking difference between these two pianists is the fact that Edwin Fischer plays with a lot of pedal and Richter plays with a very little pedal and with staccato. So, to give you an example, the interpretation of Edwin Fischer will be with an articulation that is more sustained in the left hand. Singing. The effect of that is, of course, a piece that is both lyrical and also with a touch of sadness to it. Now, the Sviatoslav Richter interpretation is with a very percussive and defined articulation. He chooses the left hand to be staccato. There is much more energy to the piece, almost anger to the piece as well. There is a certain almost violence to it. That's the effect, that's the character that he gives to the piece. Now, what is interesting about this piece is that, I mean, both interpretations have their arguments, they both work. Bach didn't write any articulation, so it's really up to us to choose whatever we believe in. I will say one more thing about this prelude, is that it's only in two voices, but what Bach does, he brings out a voice in the right hand. So basically this melody voice, when it continues, you see, is going to, I will play once, just the whole melody. Okay, maybe some of you have heard a little bit, but it was really, I didn't try to bring it out. There is a certain voice that comes out of it, and this is a voice which comes out from the third triolas of each one of them. And this melody replies to the left hand. I would say in canon. Out from this whole voice which is in the right hand. Now we have this, and now we apply the articulation, the choice of interpretation of Richter. Richter brings out this voice, of course, and the effect is very destabilizing, because suddenly we have this melody that comes out on a very weak beat. So you see, there is something very rock and roll in that. Now, I will now bring the Edwin Fischer way of doing that. He decides to slur a little bit the left hand, and also you see the effect is very different. Now, between these two interpretations, where do I stand? I have to say I love the Edwin Fischer interpretation, and for a very simple reason. In a Bach piece that has only two voices, like this Prelude, even though we can say that the right hand is divided into two, there is suddenly a melody that comes out, it's still basically two voices. We miss the harmony. And I miss the harmony, I miss the verticality that is inside the piece. But it is there. And if I will now play the piece, just the harmonies, it will sound something like that. You see, all this sounds much more full. And in that way, I prefer to play it with a little bit of pedal. Also harmony in some ways. So that's why I prefer the more pedal version. Now let's get to the fugue. The fugue is interesting because both interpretations are very close to each other. They both like to see this fugue as a sad piece in which all the notes, the 8th notes, the 16th notes, the trill, all are very important. All are impregnated with a certain heaviness. So that's about how they played. So you see, all the notes are very important, and there is a certain heaviness, a certain sadness into it. Now, I will, in this case, I would like to bring out another alternative, and that's the way I see it, based on the fact that for once, Bach wrote an articulation. He wrote articulation on the second measure. The articulation is a slur on the 16th note, and the slur means that the beginning of a slur is louder than the rest. Especially the end of the slur usually ends up in diminuendo. And he writes staccato on the second beat, which I interpret as this beat is light. It has less weight. So the way I play it is this way. Actually, I bring another character to the piece, which is not so heavy. And again, I base this choice on the notation, the fact that he wrote this slur, this staccato, which of course I need to do all over the fugue, because that's the idea of a fugue. You choose an articulation and you keep the articulation till the end. And also based on the fact that this is a 3/4. And a 3/4 is usually a dancing movement. So I'll be be very interested to hear your comments and see what you like between the interpretations of Edwin Fischer and Richter, and I hope you like this video, and see you next time.